We have gotten a package that I've been waiting so long for the R7, and this, guys, is my new exhaust. So as you guys know, I've been complaining about how quiet this bike is for the longest time, and this video a lot of people have been waiting for, and so have I. And I finally got myself a new Toce full system exhaust. Now I know there's a lot of mixed reviews on the brand Toce in general. A lot of people say the quality is ass, it doesn't sound good, but personally I've always loved the sound of Toce, at least from videos I've seen. They seem to be the loudest, the rawest, the most sort of raspy sounding exhaust. And that's exactly what I was trying to go for. You know, I like that raspy note. And so today I'm going to be doing a quick install and showing you guys how it's done, as well as some sound clips to show you guys the before and after. So this is the full OEM exhaust over here. We still have the catalytic converter, the muffler, you know, O2 sensor, yada, yada, yada. And the install should be pretty simple. I don't got to take everything apart. I just have to really take off this bottom fairing piece, and then just from that alone I can unbolt the exhaust. It should only be a couple of bolts, you know, I think there's like 2 or 4 bolts in the front of the headers, and then I think there's like 4 total bolts in the back of the muffler area, and the whole thing should just drop down. Of course, don't forget the O2 sensors. I believe these are 4mm to get rid of the fairings, and then there should be like regular Phillips head on the inner side of the fairing, and after that's taken off, I think the rest of the actual system is a mix of like 10mm, 6mm bolts and whatnot, so should be pretty simple. But before we get to that, I want to show you guys what we have inside of the box. So this one has the razor tip that splits into a Y pipe, and it's labeled 1 and 2 because there are 2 pipes going into the headers. So we have a couple of accessories. We have, you know, the O-rings, so we have a couple of springs to basically connect the pipes together, a locking clamp as well. So here we have 2 pipes. Each of these are numbered that connect to the Y pipe over here. These will go onto the headers, and then after the Y pipe is this muffler tip. Now there's actually like 2 versions of this exact exhaust, so I got like the basic one, the cheapest one I can find, which was still expensive, but you can actually pay an additional cost to get these pipes powder coated in black. That way you'll have a much cleaner setup if you want like an all black exhaust, because this is like the chrome finish, and then the muffler is always gonna be black, so I think that's the main part. I wanted this to be black at least. I would have preferred the full black stealth version, but I'm not going to shell out extra money just to get this to be black when it's going to be hidden literally underneath the fairings and you can't even see it. But yeah, it should be a pretty simple install. I'm actually going to connect these 2 pipes onto the Y pipe first. That way it'll be easier to mount it up. But yeah, basically if you don't have the numbers, the longer piping will go towards the left side of the bike, and then the short pipe goes on the right side. Right side being the actual right side from like this view. Whew, well, holy, that was a pain in the freaking ass. Reaching the bolts in the front took forever. I did eventually have to remove the fairings on the other side just to get a reach for it. And it was a super tight fitment because this big ass radiator is in the way of the bolts. So basically when I put the ratchet in, no matter which way I faced it, anywhere like this, it would just bang into stuff. So I figured I actually had to go like this. So I put the bolt in, and I used the leverage up here right in front of the radiator in order to clear the bolts. So yeah, pretty gnarly. You also want to take the O-rings out of this. You could reuse the old ones, but Toce does give you new O-rings, so I'm probably going to switch to that instead. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole exhaust off of the system. We have the O2 sensor right over here. If anyone wants to buy my OEM exhaust, it's up for sale. Now it's time to build the new Toce exhaust. What I'm going to do first is actually attach the 2 pipes onto the Y pipe, and then use the O-rings and attach these heads with the clamps into the headers. Also, there are some springs which I might actually use as well right now, just to connect it to this Y pipe over here. As you can see, this little tab is where the clamp goes, and then it basically just pulls and holds onto those. So this is what it looks like. I put the Y pipe corresponding to which pipe goes where. I did also remove the stickers for the 1 and 2. Oh, I forgot to remove the ones down here. I'll probably get rid of that because I don't want it being on there. And this is kind of what it looks like. It's not super tight, so it can still wobble. You can make your adjustments. But basically, these two top pipes, they're to go into the headers. Of course, you want to put new gaskets in here, and they just bolt down using the OEM bolts. And over here, all that's left to do is just attach the muffler piece and then bolt everything onto the bike. So very straightforward process. Alright, so now with the muffler piece, you want to put on that clamp right over here and then insert it into the piping. Okay, I just noticed, so on the old exhaust, as you can see, there's like these little hanger pieces on each side. Basically the 2 bolts over here and then the center bolt, so I think you got to transfer this over. That way you'll have an actual location for the new muffler to fit on. Because with the muffler on right now, behind the rear set, as you can see the holes, there's really not much to really bolt it into, so I think you got to use that over there. It didn't come with extra hardware, which is interesting. I thought it would come with more bolts and whatnot, because I saw some tutorials, people had like spacers and whatever. But I guess we'll just use the OEM hardware. I think it should work if I just transfer over these pieces and then everything should just bolt right up. But so far so good. So the headers obviously bolt in from the top, then we have the spring loaded looking things, and then the muffler slides on, which this clamp goes over the muffler piping, which you can tighten down afterwards. Everything's not fully tightened down, I just kind of hand tightened it, but once I make all the adjustments and everything's lined up, that's when I'll fully tighten it down and give it a nice wipe down. O2 sensor goes right here, basically where the muffler is, but I'm gonna do that last because I want to make sure the fitment is perfect. So Toce is supposed to supply you with the hardware for the rear, or where the muffler actually bolts on to the framing. They did not send that to me. That's pretty annoying, and I have to definitely reach out to them and have them correct this issue. So basically the way it works is where this piece is right behind the rear set, it's actually supposed to be the muffler. Then you put that bracket I showed you earlier back in. Then there's supposed to be a bolt that they supply you, like an extended long bolt with the spacer in between, because from where the actual hanger of the muffler is, that little piece, when the bolt goes through it, there's actually a gap between the muffler and the actual bracket that comes with the bike. So that spacer basically closes the gap and creates like a structural rigidity thing as the bolt goes through it. Then on the other end, there's a washer that basically tightens down. So they did not supply that, and the OEM hardware for that bracket down here is actually way too short. So I actually had to do some jerry rigging just now, just to make it work for now. So as you can see, the bracket is in, but I actually purposely put it backwards this time, because when I put it the correct way, it would create that gap, which is why you need that spacer from Toce. And so what I did, I flipped that bracket backwards, which actually closed the gap. So now this muffler hanger actually meets exactly with the OEM bracket, because I flipped it backward. Now when I put the bolt through, the OEM bolt, there's no gap and it's actually sitting flush. So the only thing now is I'm missing a washer for the rear to lock it in, which is about a ½ an inch left. So this is actually, I feel like this design is actually better when you flip the OEM bracket around instead of using a spacer. But everything else seems to be pretty solid so far. I still have to connect the O2 sensor. So as you can see, that is the bracket right there. The 2 bolts on the left that you see is basically switch backwards, which allows a screw over there right in the center of the screen to actually go all the way through. So yeah, right there, I just need to put like a bolt to tighten that down so it doesn't come loose. I'm not really gonna hit up Toce for them to give me the proper hardware at this point, because I'm not trying to do this all over. But yeah, I'm gonna start this thing up anyway right now and let you guys hear what the exhaust sounds like. I still have to put the O2 sensor in, tighten everything down completely. Then the bike's gonna just sit here like this exposed, because I'm actually gonna go to the hardware store real quick just to get that one extra missing little hex nut. I don't want to have to wait for them to resend out hardware and then have to retake this whole bike apart. So I think my own method is probably better than what they're gonna do. So if you do want to get this exhaust, that is something to just keep in mind, that I don't know, maybe there's some issues with it. But anyways, let's start this thing up and hear what it sounds like. God damn, that was freaking loud. There's no exhaust leaks, which is nice. I wiped down everything. I made sure the bolts are mad tight. And even the rear muffler, even though it's like missing that washer thing, it doesn't vibrate at all. So it's pretty solid. I gotta say, build quality wise is actually pretty good. The only thing is, maybe the customer service could have been better in terms of actually including the hardware. On top of this exhaust, I ordered it like 2 months ago, and they said they had delays and whatever, and I got it 2 months later. I literally had to email the customer support like, hey, did you guys forget my package? Like, what happened? And then the guy responded like, oh shoot, oh yeah, we'll send it out tomorrow and overnight it, which is what happened. They overnighted this like literally the day after I sent an email. So yeah, I guess the reviews of people saying Toce exhaust, or the company as a whole, is kind of iffy. I could see where they're lacking in terms of customer service and like actually being consistent with like supplying you with the proper hardware. But in terms of the actual exhaust itself, it's pretty solid. Like, it's good quality. I don't want to ride this yet on the street until I get that bolt fixed. But yeah, so far so good. I like the sound of it so far with the tiny little blips and the revs. But yeah, I'll really get to know if this is a good exhaust reliability wise, sound wise, performance wise, once I really do get to ride this thing. I do know that this actually does have a weight savings. So the OEM exhaust, it comes in about 17 pounds. And then the Toce exhaust is about 9 or 8, 6 pounds. I don't know. I remember it was like, I just know it's like an 11-pound sort of weight savings. It's actually not overpowering loud. This is a full system, no baffles. Maybe I'm just used to loud exhaust, but for some reason, it didn't really startle me. Like when I got the R3 exhaust, that thing really freaked me out. I'm like, holy cow, that thing is loud. But yeah, until we rev this thing up and get a ride and get the feel for it, then I guess we'll really see how loud it is. I'll put all the info in the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's been your boy, RickyMoto. I'll see you in our next one. Peace.